The New York City Council is proposing this bill that would ban private businesses and residential buildings from using facial recognition software without your consent. There are some grocery stores that have been collecting customers' biometric data as a way to prevent shoplifting, but if the bill passes, they would have to get customers' written consent, making it virtually impossible for them to keep using that technology. With me now, trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris to talk more about the legal ramifications of this. Misty, good morning to you. So is it legal for these businesses to use facial recognition software without first getting people's consent?
So as of now, in these places of public accommodation, and that's places that are open for business, in the private sector, commercial establishments, Marni, like we were speaking about, grocery stores, other types of retail, they can, at this moment, use that technology without written consent. However, New York City and many other states in the past couple of years have made the requirement that biometric data that's being collected, there has to be signage, there has to be disclosures that the data is actually being taken either by facial recognition, sometimes it's palm scanners, whatever it might be. They are required to disclose it, have prominently viewed signage, but this new law would require that explicit consent in a signed waiver. So that's very different than just signage that lets a customer know it's being collected. Now the customer actually has to affirmatively consent to that. And that's what this new city council bill is proposing.
And so I think it's hard to visualize how that would look, right? If you're talking about a grocery store, if you need written consent from people to do this, every time somebody walks in the door, are you handing them a form to sign?
Yeah, and you know what? If you don't, then you might be subject to $5,000 per violation sanctions. So it's very, very serious. And you're right, Marni. And this is what the grocery store owners who have come and formed this coalition are saying, that if this law were to pass and that affirmative consent, signing a consent form, every single person comes into a store, it's simply not feasible to use the technology anymore. The purpose of the technology then becomes moot. Right now, it's being used as a crime deterrent. It's being used to identify individuals who may have stolen from the store in the past. But if you have to sign a consent form, well, then that's really all going to change. And just to your point, Marni, logistically, what are you going to have lines around the block waiting for everybody to walk in and sign the form? So there's that practical consideration. Now, on the flip side, the very legal consideration is that historically, and this is not new, biometric data has been an issue, especially in the workplace where you have security at your front desk, people are entering the building, you have a pass, some people do facial recognition, some fingerprints. It's always been an issue, especially when it comes to civil rights type issues, Title VII of the Civil Rights Law. They say that it could actually be used for profiling, or that the technology, by happenstance, not because it's made to do so, but a byproduct of it is racial profiling. And that's where many of these issues come into play and why the city council is looking to ban it.
And we're talking about public places and businesses. What are your rights when you go into a private business?
So when you go into a private business, if this were to pass, then you would have to sign that consent waiver. As of this moment, since this has not passed, yet you can look around and see, is there signage that says that biometric data is being collected? If data is being collected and you don't see that signage, in New York City, you have a private right of action, which could be $500 per violation. So there's that component. If you believe you were racially profiled, you could bring a lawsuit on that behalf. But really, as of now, the technology has not been banned. So it's just about whether or not you're being let know that this is actually being collected. And then you could opt not to go into the store, or you could speak to a manager and say, I don't want to be a part to this biometric data. Now, once it's banned and you have that consent, well, then the store would have a problem if they're collecting it without achieving that formal written consent. There was a lawsuit to this effect relating to a workplace, not a commercial privacy, from Amazon, or New York City against Amazon. So there is precedent for these types of issues. If you do feel uncomfortable, you need a religious accommodation, you can speak to somebody in management about that.
Yeah, I wondered about Amazon because now they have the type of technology that, you can walk in and just grab things out of one of the Amazon stores, right, and walk out, and they've got all your data. They've got facial recognition. They've got your credit card. This is an interesting one. I think it's going to be one we watch closely. Misty Marris, thank you as always. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.